We actually, in Portland Rising and JWJ, first heard about Retail Workers' Bill of Rights from Tim Finn, who is a shop steward at UFCW, United Food and Commercial Workers 555, and is a Portland Rising activist. And he came into one of our early Portland Rising meetings with a paper in his hand that said Retail Workers' Rights, Bill of Rights on top, big heading. And he wrote it himself. It was coming right from his own experience and his own heart. And we were very impressed by his vision and by his foresight. Tonight, he just might have it with him. I don't know, but I'm going to introduce Tim Finn. Come up.
Hi everybody, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate you being here. This is my version of the Bill of Rights that I introduced to Jobs with Justice a while back. And the reason I had come up with it is because I work in retail. I work for Fred Meyer, which is, if you're not from the Portland area, it's part of the Kroger division of grocery stores. And I work in their deli. I worked there for 5.5 years, almost 6 years. And I'm still a part-time worker, even though I have begged and pleaded with them to be a full-time worker. I've been the employee of the quarter in my store. I've had numbers of perfect shops where they send a secret shopper to see how you're doing, and I blew them away with my customer service and stuff. But it doesn't matter because their business model wants part-time workers that are disposable. They've had over 40 people hired to do the exact same work that I do. And yet they just keep flowing people through there and won't give full-time jobs. But the reason I want to tell you about this is because when I was a kid, my dad worked at a shoe store. He worked in retail, and we lived a middle-class lifestyle. We had a car. My parents owned their own house. They supported 4 children. My mom stayed home, was a stay-at-home mom, and we lived a middle-class lifestyle from being a guy that sells shoes. He wasn't the boss and he wasn't the manager. He didn't own 15 shoe stores. We lived that kind of lifestyle the same way that you think of a guy working at Payless Shoes today. Can you imagine someone working at Payless Shoes today and making enough money to own a home and have a car and live a middle-class lifestyle? We didn't have welfare. We didn't need help with our bills. We lived a normal life, and you can't do that anymore. And like now, he had a regular schedule. He had a couple of days off every week and went to work at the same time every day. I work at a store where sometimes I start at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I start at 5 o'clock at night. And my schedule goes any time of those days. I can be there almost any time of the day or night. We have things called turn and burns. I had a shift just last week where I got done at 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night. And I'm scheduled to be back at work at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning the next day. This kind of stuff is just normal in the retail business, and we can change that. What these people in San Francisco have done is they've looked at what these corporations were doing to their workers and said, you know what, we can change that. And like working at Kroger, they are the #1 grocery retailer in the United States. They're the seventh largest retailer in the world. They have over 2,600 stores in 34 states. Last year they did $108 billion in sales. And this is a nice one. Their stock this year is the darling of Wall Street. It's up 71.5% in the last year. And yet I went 2 years without a raise. And then I got a 25-cent raise. And let me tell you, I've got it good because I'm a union retail worker. I've got a better deal than most retail workers in the city. I have a defined pension plan. If I live to be 107 years old, I'm still going to get a check from Kroger. But the people working at Walmart and Target and those places, they don't have anything like that. I've actually got it good. So, we need to fight for all the retail workers. If my job is this bad being union, can you imagine what it's like not being union? A couple other notes here. Our CEO made $8.8 million in 2013. That's 366 times more than I made in 2013. I mean, that's the difference between why my dad made a reasonable living and why we don't make a reasonable living today is because things have completely gotten out of balance. And we need to fix that. And I'll just wind it up by saying, in 2013, the Oregon legislature passed a bill 2783, and it protected dogs and cats from being tied up with a tent shorter than 15 feet for more than 5 hours a day, because Oregonians looked around and said, you know, that's wrong that people tie their dogs up and just leave them there all day. And as a state, we said, you know what, that's wrong. You shouldn't be able to do that to a dog. Well, let's start treating people with the same respect that we treat animals. Our legislature's fired up to treat people with the same modicum of respect that they treat people's pets. And we could pass things like 15 now, and pass things like a retail workers' bill of rights. Now, that's not why we're not here to start it in Portland today. We're here just to plant a seed to get people thinking about it. But I'd like you to listen to what these people have to say tonight and think about us retail workers and what we can do to make our lives better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. And Tim's point is so important about what it's like for non-union retail workers, and that the need to strengthen the whole, really lift up the floor instead of the race to the bottom on the part of all of us, union, non-union, and build a movement.